Hello, all my art-loving people out there. So I have a similar problem today as I had the other day. I want to paint with this palette, but it is not complete. So I did this, felt like the other day, I think it was just last week with my Rosa Gallery palette. I will link that video in the corner for you because that one was kind of fun to get to make that palette complete. And for this Roman Szmal palette, you can see Roman Szmal, I have these 4 new colors that I got in the massive art haul I did back in April, I believe. I'll also link that for you. That's a really fun video. I just rewatched that today and got to see all those fun products all over again. It just made me really excited to be in my studio. The problem I have with this palette is I'm out of space. I can only fit one more pan by keeping these in pans like this because that's the only one that'll fit. So we've got problems that we need to fix. I noticed if I put a pan like this, the palette does still shut, but I don't really want to do that because I would have to cut out these individual dividers on the ends there, and I just think that's kind of messy. And this palette is meant for you to pour paint into these slots, and I've just used full pans because that's what I had. So I'm going to retire this palette actually, which is kind of sad because I customized it, but I'll just sand that. It's just watercolor ground and I'll repaint it when I reuse this again. Palette choices that I have are this Coca-Cola tin. I love it. Has a Norman Rockwell painting on the front. I did already paint the lid of this white earlier. Not earlier today, earlier in my life. I used the Krylon appliance epoxy because I was going to use it as a palette for my Rosa Gallery, and then I decided on my Rosa Gallery to use that pencil tin instead. So I have this one, or I actually have a Rosa Gallery palette that is meant to hold 48 half pans, or I believe 28 full pans. I have 34 full pans. So for me to use this palette, I would need to pull off these metal things, but notice how big the holes are. This is not a normal flat palette like I'm used to having the inserts. Usually they're small little rivets, and these are huge. So I could still pull this off and use this flat metal plate, but it might cause more damage because the holes are so much larger. So all we need is something flat to cover the holes in this because you can't put the pans in there when they're going to rock around on these divided mixing spaces. So what you can do instead is take a piece of paper, like copy paper or cardstock, laminate it and put it in here and use that, and then attach the pans to that. Unfortunately, a full pan does not fit in the middle of this because I could just put, you can fit 7 full pans across here. So again, this would hold 28, but I have 34. And they put the metal too close together here in the middle to fit any kind of pan down the middle. Otherwise, that would have been a great option, right? I either use the Coca-Cola tin and can put them in however I want, or I redo the bottom of this palette and use it, which I'm kind of tempted to do because with the 2 lids opening like this, it gives me a lot of mixing space. And in general, I take this flap off, but with these being full pans and knowing the paintings that I use them for, I use them for big paintings. My Roman Szmal paints usually 12 by 16. When I do my classes, we have a lot of fun with 12 by 16 paintings. And I think having the extra mixing space would be useful, even though it takes up more room on the desk with this flap on. So I'm leaning towards this palette just because of the extra mixing space, but what would you guys do? Unfortunately, I can't get your input before I make this video, but I am still curious which palette you would choose. So let me know in the comments below. I'll make my decision and it'll be obvious here in a second. Regardless of which palette we choose, I have 4 fun new colors because I couldn't resist. I just needed an orange. That's all I needed. I just wanted an orange for this palette, so I got this one. This is a PO71, I think. Permanent orange. Oh no, it's a PO59. That was very far off. Anyway, I was just trying to remember from my art haul video that I watched earlier. It's a nice bright orange. However, when I was going to get that one, I wanted to compare Roman Szmal's golden yellow to the golden yellow in the Rosa Gallery palette because it's just a beautiful color. So this golden yellow is a PY 181. And the golden yellow in the Rosa Gallery set here is a PY 110. So very different pigments, but similar colors it looks like. I'm just in love with the golden yellow in the Rosa Gallery palette, so I figured having one in this palette would be fun. I also got this one, quinacridone gold, because it has PY 150 and PO 48, and I just wanted to grab it before it was gone because it has the PO 48 in it. This one is just PO 48, and this one is the quinacridone burnt sienna. So a lot of really pretty colors to add to this palette that we'll swatch out and figure out what we're gonna do here. I've decided I'm going to give this Rosa Gallery palette the honor of holding my Roman Szmal paints, which means I gotta find a way to cover the Rosa Gallery logo. I think it's time for a sticker. This is just copy paper. I took a piece of printer paper out of my machine and I laminated it. And it sits in there very nicely. And I will be able to put all the pans nice and flat on there with double-sided tape. Now for the exciting part, let's see what these colors look like. This is Paul Rubens glitter paper. It was in my scrap bin. We're going to start with the golden yellow. Again, this was a PY 181. And when you first open Roman Szmal paints, they have that wax paper on the top, and sometimes that wax paper leaves a film on the top of the paint. So if your paint doesn't activate right away, then it's probably just has a little bit of that wax paper film on it. You have to get through that before the paints really can shine. Wow, that's beautiful. I think I need more scrap paper. I want to try more. This is just copy paper from my cutout. Such a pretty color. Yeah, you definitely need watercolor paper. Wow, pretty. This is my permanent orange, the one I meant to buy. Yeah, this one definitely has a film on it that we have to get through. Try one more round here. Probably will work better the next time we use it because we've gotten through that film. This one actually seems a little bit, I don't know what the word is, but when the paint kind of separates like pudding, we'll see when I go to use it because I have to decide the painting I want to do with this. There's two choices. Both of them use a little bit of orange. So one uses a lot of orange, one uses a little bit of orange. Regardless, I'll get to use some orange. Yeah, this one has a big bit of the film on the top of it. So let's get through that a little bit better than we did on the orange first. This one is the quinacridone gold, the PY 150 mixed with the PO 48. Oh my goodness. It's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. And then we have the quinacridone burnt sienna, the one that is only PO 48. I'm excited to see what this one looks like. And we'll have to compare this with Daniel Smith's eventually here. Ooh. Yeah, that's reminiscent of what I remember from the Daniel Smith palette because I actually used quinacridone burnt sienna in my Daniel Smith palette a lot in a painting I did, 2 paintings I did, and so I got very familiar with this color, and that is a lot like it, which is good because I loved it. Alright, so we have some very orange leaning colors we just added to this palette. Let's go ahead and set them up in the new palette and redo our swatch sheet. We're going to swatch on 100% cotton B watercolor paper, 140 pound. This is buff titanium, PW6:1. It's granulating and semi-opaque. This is lemon yellow, a PY61. Followed by nickel azo yellow, PY150. If you want to skip the swatching, just go ahead by about 3.5 minutes. This is golden yellow, PY181, one of the most beautiful colors. permanent orange. The golden yellow and permanent orange are so close, I probably only needed one of them, but I didn't know that at the time. PO59. This one is Quin Gold Hue, PR102 and PY150. And we're going to follow that up with the actual Quin Gold, PY150 and PO48. I put Potter's Pink down on this row at PR233. That's going to be followed up with Caput Mortuum. I basically made this row granulators, granulators, with a few exceptions, of course. PR102 for Caput Mortuum. I think I said that already. After that will be October 2023, a beautiful color, PBR7 and PV37. Then the Aquarius Violet, which is a PB29 and a PV19, followed with a PR255. This is Aquarius Brown, very granulating, PBR11. I did use that in the watery pool part of the Yellowstone picture you're going to see later. Transparent Brown, PBR23. Beautiful color. Quin Burnt Sienna, PO48, and only PO48. Then we have Cherry Quinacridone Red, PR209. Beautiful color. Followed by Aquarius Red, a PR214. Bright, beautiful, lovely red. After this is your typical magenta, PR122. Good old steadfast color. Then we have a beautiful one after this, Mineral Violet, which is a PB29 and a PV19. We're going to follow that up with one of my favorite new colors, Autumn Green, PG26, PY150, and PR122. It was new before this last round of new colors. Same with this Hooker's Green, PY150, and PB27. All these greens are wonderful. This is Aquarius Green, PY150, PBR25, and PB29, followed by Cobalt Teal, which is your usual PB50. Next is Cobalt Sea Blue, PB28. Isn't that pretty? Then we have Ocean Blue, which separates into a couple different colors. This is PBR24 and PB15:3. Then we have Misty Morning, PG50 and PV19. We're going to skip a few spots and go to Cypress Raw Umber Brownish, PBR7. And then we're going to hit Cobalt Blue, PB28. Very granulating. Ultramarine Light is after this at PB29. Also another granulating color. Then Prussian Blue, like my only non-granulating color for the blues, but it's too dark. PB23, too dark for skies. I'll talk about that later. Payne's Gray, PBK9, PB27, and PR264. Urban Gray is next. After I adjust the Misty Morning and the Mineral Violet. Those two kind of bled into each other. Urban Gray is PW6, PBR29, PB29, and PV150. It's a beautiful gray. Then we have Velvet Black, PR254, one of my favorite red pigments with PG7. Then Aquarius Black, an extremely high granulating PBK11. So granulating, it was hard to even get some to stick to the paper. I just didn't have it very wet is all. And here it is, dried, labeled, and laminated. I think I might put a Jackson's gift card on my Christmas wish list this year because I actually need a couple of browns. I need a dark brown and not exactly a burnt sienna because I think those other browns near the oranges are fine for that, but like a medium brown maybe. Anyway, dark brown for sure would be useful. So here I am using Bao Hong paper to do a little test painting. This is a test painting for my National Parks in Watercolor class that I teach at the college. And I wanted to do this picture I found of Yellowstone, basically, or one of the pools at Yellowstone. And I don't know if the picture has been doctored to look like this or not, but I really loved it. I wanted to use the new oranges that I got from this set, and it was the perfect picture for that. So even though the reference photo didn't have orange in the sky, I wanted to add orange in the sky because I thought it was kind of boring just being blue by itself. That's one other thing, actually. I have 2 empty slots in this palette. I need a non-granulating blue, desperately, a bright non-granulating blue, because I don't like granulation in my skies when they're not stormy. And the only sky blues I have in this palette are granulating. So yeah, maybe a dark brown and a non-granulating blue that I can use for skies. I think that would be perfect additions to this palette. In the meantime, I have a sky blue from Rockwell. Maybe I'll try that out, and I could add that in here until I could get the Roman Szmal version of it. Now this was a really fun painting because it's loose and easy and you just kind of splash colors down wherever you want. I do have the horizon line masked off and those little lines that you see down in the pool area masked off. Once I pull the masking fluid off of those, I'll tint them with color and soften. You'll see that here a little bit later in the video. There are some of the darker stripes there. I end up softening some of those a bit later, but here you can see me pulling off the masking fluid in the bright white that's left, and I did pull it off of the horizon line as well. Now I am using a scrubber brush, which is just a stiff bristled brush, and scrubbing over that horizon line. I want to keep that light area but soften it, so that's how you do that. And you have to keep cleaning that brush because it does activate the paint, and it will smear paint wherever you put it if you don't keep cleaning it. And here I'm putting the bright lemon yellow over those stripes, and I end up putting a little bit of orange on them too, and a little bit of darker color over there. That Aquarius violet was so fun. So you can see here, this is when I considered it finished at home, but I brought it to class and I actually changed some stuff. I tried to go over the sky with Daniel Smith's phthalo blue to lessen the granulation, but the granulation was just already so apparent that didn't work. But you'll see the class version that I did here in a minute. So this is before it has been altered, and here's after. So I softened those weird Prussian blue pools in the back. I made the mist more misty. I did go over the sky with the Daniel Smith phthalo blue, and then this is the big version of it. This is the 12 by 16. So this is a second painting you're seeing here. This is the one I demoed for the class because we use bigger paper. So same palette, but this is an Arches block, and I used different blue. I used Daniel Smith's phthalo blue because one of my students had it. She had it in a tube, and I just squeezed it into the top of this palette and used that for the sky and the mist, and I'm so much happier with it. It's so much prettier without all that ugly granulation in the sky. I just love this painting. The school version here turned out really nice. I'm very happy with it. So what I'm showing you here is the sand dune picture I did with the previous palette, the Rosa Gallery palette. And what I did, I brought them to class because I have some free time in one of the classes. And what I did on these paintings was increase the contrast in the shadowed areas. So I'll bring up a picture here in a second where you can see the difference before and after on the paintings. I think it really helped to increase the contrast. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this inspired you to go do some painting of your own today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.